Welcome back to the final whistle for another episode of X Fox in the Box. And we've got Leicester City fans' favourite, Iain Hume, will be joining us very shortly to talk about his career at Leicester, his overall career as a player. And if you've got any questions for Iain Hume, be sure to get them in. I'll try and get as many to him. Ross says Hume. Yeah, Ross is clearly a massive fan of Iain Hume. Hi, Jack. Where are you going to put your Premier League predictions? Will be out tomorrow. So we'll be chatting tomorrow regarding that. Guys, if you're watching this, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed to the Final Whistle. Please get down and do so. It would help me out massively if you can do that. And let's get my guest in, Iain Hume. There we go. Iain, how are you, mate?
Not too bad, pal. Thanks for having me on. Just getting on with things. Retired player, obviously.
Yep.
Doing my coaching out here in Canada and been doing it for 4 years and just continuing the journey.
You still don't look a day older, do you, from when you was at Leicester? Let's be honest.
Trying to say I looked old when I was there. Geez, that was some time ago, to be fair.
You are coming back to the Championship. Like, well, we are going to mention the Championship with Iain Hume, but I don't know about Leicester going back there anytime soon. But Iain, have you kept on top of what's happening at Leicester City since like retiring and that?
Yeah, especially when I was playing. I obviously keep an eye on a lot of things, especially on my former clubs. But when I was playing, I always kept an eye on Leicester, and then obviously the getting up to the Premier League and then winning it and everything. I was a massive fan from afar. But yeah, I've been watching quite a lot over here. We get footage of all games, so we can watch whatever game's available. And it's could be going better for them right now, but it's early doors, and obviously new signings. You're waiting for them to gel, but back in the Prem, which is the main thing.
I'm going to ask you about retirement firstly before we get on to your career. What's it like? Obviously retired. Obviously you are coaching at the minute, aren't you, at Woodstock FC? Yeah. How are you finding things in Canada and coaching in football as well as playing?
It's tough. Never want to say you're not playing anymore. You never want to retire fully. Unfortunately, it had to be done. I got older after I did my knee. In my second last season, I did my ACL, and that was a tough one to get over. But once I made the decision moving into coaching, I was always going to stay in the game. So moving into coaching was obviously the next step. I did some media work as well along the way, over here and in India. But I just miss the day-to-day. I miss the level of training. I miss the group of lads, whoever you're with. It's tough to overcome when you've played for as long as I did, and then obviously it's cut short, or not cut short, but you finally cut ties with it. It's a tough one to get over.
It is. When did Iain Hume play for Leicester? 2005 to 2008. Iain Hume, you made 588 appearances in football amongst all the teams he played for, 142 goals. I'm sure you'll have a fair share of which ones have been your best goals. Let's have a look at some of the teams you played for. Tranmere Rovers is where you started your career in England. 2000 to 2005. Leicester then brought you in 2005 to 2008 for 500 grand. Barnsley brought you in 2008 to 2011 for a fee of £1.2 million. Preston on loan 2010 to 2011. Preston 2011 to 2014. Doncaster Rovers 12 to 13. Fleetwood, and then you went to Kerala Blasters in
Kerala, yeah.
2014, Tranmere Rovers again, and then I think you played some football in India.
Yeah, so Kerala Blasters was the first team in India, and then I came back in the off season, played for Tranmere. Then I went back there for 4 seasons. But I had a couple stints in Spain,
Yeah,
first or second division and third division, which I enjoyed. It was different. Wish they'd happened earlier in my career because I think I'd have flourished. Played well when I was out there, but just things never seemed to work. We were fighting relegation, both clubs I was at. So, but yeah, finished off in India and was hoping to finish off in Canada, but that never materialized. So, yeah, and I sailed off into the sunset.
how many appearances did you make for Canada? Was it 42?
43, I believe, in the full national
43.
team. And yeah, and I'm probably made about 25, 30, 30 appearances in the youth levels.
Yep. What does Iain Hume think about our current manager, Steve Cooper?
Um, I think he's the right fit, or he could be the right fit. I know it's always tough to accept a coach that's come from Forest, but it's he did ever so well with them. Got
Yep.
them up. I think he might have got the sack a little bit early there, but I think he's got, from when I've watched this season, I think he's got the fight back. I think he's got the energy back, which is great to see. I think he needs to be given time. He needs to be supported by the staff and the club, and I think he could be a successful appointment for them.
Interesting. Let's go on to your Leicester career. Um, 2005, you was brought in by Craig Levine. I believe he was Craig Levine's most expensive signing at Leicester. 500 grand is what we paid from Tranmere. Talk to me about how that came about, then the Tranmere to Leicester move.
Very last minute. I'd been talking the whole, because we just lost in the playoff semi-finals with Tranmere the season before, and I had a good season. I'd had a couple good seasons before that. And there was lots of talk of me going to Preston, because one
Yeah,
of our former players, Kelly, he was coach. He was assistant manager to Billy Davis at the time. And then you had Alan Irvine was there, and they were both big fans of me, and they tried to get me, and it never materialized. So then it came down to the last like 3-4 days um, of the window, and I was actually on the field. So another former Fox, Brian Little, was my manager at the time,
yeah,
and I was on the training field, and I got a phone call, or the gaffer got a phone call and said, "Listen, we've accepted a bid," and didn't say anything else. So I got in the car and went back to the club to get changed, and they said, "Yeah, Leicester City's come in because you guys had just sold David Connolly to
that
Wigan, I
right. Yeah.
believe." So it was a matter of they're looking for somebody similar. Obviously didn't score as many goals as him, so I apologize to the Foxes fans. Um, but no, it was out the blue, and obviously I was a big fan of Craig Levine. I grew up a Hearts fan.
Yeah.
With my family being from Edinburgh, so I knew a lot about him as a player, and to play for him for me was a massive opportunity. Play for Leicester, who's just been down from the Premier League for a year and a half, not even a year and a half. So to go to a club like that was kind of a no brainer. So yeah, we drove down. I met up with my agent down at Leicester because he was coming up from London, and met with him, and we got the deal done last minute. Little microwave medical, and got me done quick as possible, and that was it. I was there deadline day, and I was back. I was in training the next morning.
Ross, and let's be honest, you're more well known at Leicester than David Connolly. That probably says something, to be fair, about David Connolly's time at Leicester City. How did you settle in at Leicester?
Um, Obviously took a while because I'd only ever known Tranmere, so
Yeah,
I was fortunate because it was a very young group. I think you've even like your older players like your Gareth Williams and Alan Mabry's and Stephen Hughes and all them, they weren't much older than me. So I was kind of coming in, and then I was staying in Hinckley
yeah,
I believe I was staying at the Grange in Hinckley, and like we brought in Ryan Smith on loan from Arsenal, and these guys were staying in the hotel as well, so it was relatively easy to settle in. Not as easy to get in the team. Craig Levine, for one reason or another, took his time getting me in, which was fine. And then I was sub, and then I wasn't sub, and it was one of those. It was a tough couple months as far as adapting to the play, because I played before, so I knew the levels and I knew I could reach them. But for some reason, it took a while to get in. And when I, funny enough, when I finally got in, it was after completely. It was after Craig Levine got sacked. So yeah, just we'd signed Matty Fright in the January, who was banging
Yeah.
goals in for Walsall, and then me and him hit it off like a house on fire, and we went from there.
Yeah, that partnership was something special, to be honest. You and
Oh,
Matty
one of
Fryer.
the best, honestly, one of the most enjoyable I had. I had a good one at Tranmere with Eugene Daddy,
Yeah.
and Simon Howard, two big centre forwards who I worked off. But me and Matty were a different dynamic. We were both mobile. We both like making runs in behind. We both like working hard. Matty was a hell of a finisher, so it suited me because I like creating chances and helping win
Yeah.
battles to create chances. And if he's there to bang in goals, so be it. I'm equally as happy. So yeah, me and him both enjoyed playing together.
Let's have a look at your Leicester career. 132 appearances for the Foxes, 34 goals. Talk to me about the goals situation. I mean, what I'm going to ask you your top five Leicester City goals.
Oh geez. Obviously my first one against Derby away was
Yeah.
huge. I enjoyed that because they went up the Premier League, so we got to look at it that way. That team essentially went up to the Premier League, and to score against them, I believe I scored against them at home as well, if I remember rightly. Um, Obviously scoring two against Chef United at home were good. I scored two
Hmm.
against Southampton. I think it was in the cup. But my one against Watford was probably my standout, where under Martin Allen. Um, you got me thinking back now. Geez, could have thrown this at me before we come on live. Um, to be honest, goals for me, like as much as you look back and you look in your portfolio and the ones that go in top corners and all that are amazing, but there's certain goals which I like. The one against Derby, my opener, my first goal for the club wasn't fantastic, but it was I played on the shoulder of the centre backs and a good finish, and those are the sorts of goals as strikers I enjoyed equally as much. So playing Brighton away, rounding the keeper, played round the keeper scored and celebrating with um, Momo Silla and like these sorts of things. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed scrappy little striker goals and um, scored against Reading.
Yeah.
Like these sorts of goals. Reading went up to Premier League. Like proving that I can compete and I could do it against the top teams in the division was what I was doing it for. Like scoring scrappy goals are great. Scoring against the top teams in the division were a little bit sweeter. Pardon me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when me and a friend were talking earlier on about the goals situation, I said my best Iain Hume goal with the Watford at home and the
Mhm.
4 goal win. That was my best goal where you just pick it up and then you smash it top corner and the stadium goes mad. That was Martin Allen's best game. I know Martin Allen had a very short stint at Leicester, didn't he, regarding his fallout with Milan Mandridge in the end, which obviously seen him get the sack and your last goal, Sheffield Wednesday away, which brings one back for you. Ross comments about Barnsley away. 2008 is his all-time favourite. The limbs in that away end was
Mm.
insane. Um,
Back posts.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I remember that was a good one. Conveniently, I ended up signing for them end of that season. But no, like I said, I remember goals. If I was to relook at the fixture list and I see my name on the game sheet, I'll remember the goals there. It's tough to think back to bloody 16 years ago, 15 years ago. Um, but I'm one of those. I do remember them when I look back at the fixture list, and then I try and reenact what happened. But like I love scoring. I knew I wasn't a natural goal scorer, but I knew I could score goals. So I think it's easy to say this now, but my mentality when I got older, and obviously I wasn't as quick as I was when I was at Leicester and when I'd moved from Tranmere. If I'd had my mindset that I
Yeah.
have or I had in my last say 5-6 years of my career, if I had that mindset when I was at Leicester, I think I'd have scored. It's easy to say now, but I think I'd have scored a lot more goals because I knew what my game was more about, and I grew up into it. And once I got to round about 28, 27, 28, 29, I started really understanding what was needed. And I wish, like we were talking off air about things you could have changed in your career. It's easy to say
Mm.
it now, but I think if I'd had my mentality and my mindset when I was younger, then I think I'd have produced a heck of a lot more. But I am proud as hell as what for what I've done, and the not so much for the statistic side of things, for what I always gave to whoever I played for. Whenever I put on a shirt, didn't matter who it was for, I gave my heart and soul. And I think that was something that lived longer with the fans and the clubs than that's out. So yeah, I'm extremely proud of everything. I wish I'd done a bit more statistically, but the way I walked away from or got away from, or left clubs or was transferred from clubs, I don't think I ever left with a sour taste. So
No, I agree. What kind of message would you give to the sort of young players these days? What sort of advice would you give them? Ones that are at the bottom at the minute who really want to make it to the top. Obviously, you've seen the story of the climb of Jamie Vardy, the current Leicester City striker. Talk to me about the sort of advice and that you give them, and talk to me about Vardy's career.
well, in hindsight, you used the money you got for me to get him, so you're welcome. No, hey, seriously, I'll talk about Vardy first. Like the guy's a phenom. Like he plays the game for fun. He enjoys it, and you see that every time he's on the field, and he plays it with heart and desire. And he's a very upgraded version of myself when I was at
Mm,
Leicester. Works his butt off. I know he's older, but you see, like I was in a meme the other day about when Saliba muscled him. And Arsenal
yeah,
fans are waxing lyrical about, oh, do you remember when this guy used to bully Mertesacker and whatever? Yeah, this guy's 37-year old or whatever. Like, shut up. Saliba's 22, 23. The guy's at his prime and Vardy's still testing him. So that's a
yeah,
testament to him. Like, Vardy's just a freak. The guy, he stayed at the club. He wanted to stay at the club. He had opportunities to leave, what, 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where he was getting offered big money and he didn't want to. He was enjoying his football, and that's what you want from your players. It's not a You're not a clout chaser or you're chasing dollars. If you're making, for instance, you're making 100 grand here and they offer you 120. If you're enjoying it at 100 grand, why do you need to go to 120? Like there's no need.
exactly.
You're making
Yeah,
you're making stupid amounts of money. So it's all this is again which will lead into the young players of today.
yeah,
It's yeah, okay, doing these tricks, finishes, and training that get videoed, and it looks amazing. But social media is ruining the game because everyone thinks it's about clicks. Everything's, oh, if I do this in training and I do one skill 18 times, but they videoed at that one time that I beat the guy, it looks amazing, and it's going to go all over social media, and I'm going to look like a world beater. But what about the 15, 16 times you gave the ball away?
yeah,
Like there's no there's not enough, especially the lower levels. Premier is different. Like Premier and top championship or even championship's different. But you go lower and lower, and um it's all about what I can get the interest from the outside world and how I can do that. It's not about efficiency anymore. Like if you ask any coach, and this comes from grassroots where I'm coaching to the top level, if they see somebody who's efficient and somebody who's like a 90+ % pass percentages and all that, and this is where the
yeah,
statistics come in, the coach will go after that player than somebody who does a bit of skill once a game and it looks amazing and has a 50% pass ratio. So I think it's just people need to get off the clout chasing and get off the clickbait and going after how many likes I can get on social media for a goal I put in the top corner, but nothing for the 18 that I missed the target with. So it's that's my advice to it, is just concentrate on your game. If you're in it for the long haul and you love it, concentrate on that before what the outside world have to say.
Fair point. Top five best Leicester City moments then for you in your career.
First goal.
Hmm.
Obviously I love that. Making my I'll go first. My debut
Hmm.
coming on sub against Chef Wed, and I had my parents there, and
Yeah.
that's where you bunch of mugs started shouting Hume, and it Hume, and I think it was only the second. I think it was only the second time I touched the ball, and my mom and dad were like, "Why the hell are they booing him? Like, what is it? Like, what has he done?" So that was amazing for me, because you guys right away made me feel welcome. That was
Yeah.
the group of guys was awesome, but obviously I could have the best group of friends and best group of teammates, but if the fans don't like you, you're fighting a losing battle. But you guys open arms as soon as I got there, so that was amazing for me. Then my first goal against Derby, which was great. Um, top five, geez. I think games against the Premier League teams I've got to throw in there. Playing at Villa Park was amazing. Playing at Craven Cottage was amazing. Um, Watford goals up there,
Yeah.
but it's hard to think back to all the good times, because a lot of them were overshadowed by the one bad time, and it's something that, as much as I think back, and I can think about them, like scoring two against Chef United, when I think they went up that year, or they either went up or they came down. No, they went up that year. So scoring two at uh, Walker's was incredible, against Alan Wright and Lee Bromby and Jagielka, and like those types of players who went and played Premier League and played for a long. Jagielka went on, I think, played one season in the Prem with Sheffield United. Then he went and played 10 years or 8 years for Everton, and captain Everton, like, and got in the England squad. And like, that's the sort of thing I look back at.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just being able to do it's tough, yeah, to put five. It's tough. It's just being given the opportunity to play for a club like that, and to do as well as I did. And I know I could have done better, but to still do as well as I did, ultimately it wasn't enough in the end. But yeah, I just buzzed off it.
Talk to me about your love for Leicester. Obviously, the fans loved you, didn't they? Um, in your time, you spent 3 beloved years at Leicester. Real fans' favourite. Passion every time you walked out of that tunnel. Like you say, the man on the edge of them defenders who'd run them ragged and work hard. And I think that's what we asked for as fans. From our players back then. Still ask for it now, don't you, as a fan, to see them types of things you mentioned, the likes of Matty Fryatt and that, who used to run, score goals and that. But what is the one message you'd send to Leicester fans in your career at Leicester?
Just thank you. Like, I think that's you guys opened the door for me, and you guys opened your arms for me. And as soon as I came in, I felt wanted. I I gave what I could, and as fans and as coaches, that's all you can ask of your players, and I know that. And I did it for Tranmere, I did it for Leicester, I did it for Preston, I did it for Barnsley. Um, if it comes up short, I have nothing to blame but myself. But I always gave everything, and that's for Leicester fans. I know there was question marks about when I left, and I
Yeah.
verified reasonings why that happened.
Uh huh.
And I explained that on a couple podcasts since I left and since I retired and whatnot. But to Leicester fans, thank you. Like, you guys know I love playing for you. I wanted to play for you. I still had a year and a half, 2 years on my contract, so I didn't want to go. It was just a matter of circumstances, and it needed to be done. And the club weren't fighting to keep me. It's so that was the issue. But for Leicester fans, you guys, if I'd have come back, if I could have come back, I would have come back, and if I could have stayed, I would have stayed. It was just one of those. It was my biggest, and I was actually talking to my brother about it last week. Oddly. This is before me and you had been in contact about coming on here.
Yeah.
My biggest regret was leaving. I loved going to Barnsley. Things happened there that obviously was out of everyone's control. I loved playing for Preston. Did very well there. Had again a great rapport with the fans. Same with Barnsley. But if I could have stayed at Leicester, I would have. Regardless the level, like going down to League One, I was a part of that. I was a part of the losing team. So wanting to put things right rather than looking like I was jumping ship, which I bloody wasn't. But I'd have loved to have put that right and to see how well the team did after I left. Obviously, I watched every result come in. Seeing Matty bang 800 goals and Kingy score 800 goals in a year. Um, Guys I played with, Stevie Howard, Matty Oakley,
Mhm.
like Matty Fryatt, Andy King, like these guys, Steers left the same time as me, same with Gaz McCauley. But seeing
Yeah.
seeing the guys do well and getting the club back where they belonged. And who the hell would have known that it would have gone even further and gone up to the Prem and then gone to everyone's worrying about them getting relegated, and then 2 years later they win the bloody thing. So it's who'd have known that would have happened. But it was just they couldn't offer and do whatever they'd offered for other players. And then when I left, they sell the club, they get all this money, and they're offering players twice as much as I was on. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things, and you can't judge how the situation's how time's going to go. But yeah, I loved every minute of it, and to Leicester fans, all I can say is thank you, and it's great to see you guys got what you wanted along the line. And who'd have thought Premier League, but you guys got a trophy to sit at home and smile at every time you walk through. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it was a good. Tell you what, to go League One, 2008 and 9, to then fast forward it to now and what you've won, and you don't. People always used to come into sentiment, didn't you? I don't know if you heard it as a player. People would always call us Little Leicester, and
Mhm.
I guess as a fan, you're like. Yeah, we might not be where Man United are at this minute in time or anywhere like that. And now it's like Manchester City and that and it. But you always dreamt to them moments as a kid, didn't you? As a player, to always think, you know what, we can make it to the top. And obviously, we had new owners come in, didn't we? Vishai come in
Mhm.
with Top in 2010s, and they said they had a 5-year plan to get Leicester back in competing in the Premier League, and they wanted to establish us as a real fighting force of the club, and then the Great Escape comes, 14, 15, and then to stay up after probably looking real off at Christmas. The
Mhm.
bookies not taking any more bets, and they think Leicester's gone down, and then the miracle happens, and then the 15-16 season happens straight after, where Leicester go and win the Premier League after pulling off the Greatest Escape before. You fast forward it 5 years after that, Leicester go and win the FA Cup, Champions League football, Europa League. Leicester have competed in them. I mean, it's mad, isn't it, to what Leicester's achieved from the 08-09 season, from that League One season to where they are now.
And that's the thing. Like you look back and you think about that £1 million you got for me, got you Vards, got you and Jamie Vardy, and there you go. The rest is history. So no, it's incredible, and you genuinely you look at footballing history and find me a better story. Find me a better
Yeah,
story than Leicester winning the Premier League after avoiding relegation. Like, if you can find one in football, and I don't mean like a World Cup or a European Championship where Greece went and won it. Like, it's a short tournament. It's a one-off
mm,
tournament. You find me someone who's gone the amount of games in the Premier League, what 38 games. You find
yeah,
me a better story because that team was near perfect, and it's not because they were the best players in the world. They were near perfect, and it was hilarious because I'd done an interview when they got promoted to the Prem, and did I think they'd stay up the first time they went back up? And I said, yeah, I think they'll finish round about mid-table.
yeah.
And struggles were there, but fast forward a couple of years and the bloody Champions League like Premier League champions, like some things you just wouldn't even comprehend. You wouldn't even think about it. So it's been amazing to see, and it's And listen, it's tough to compete with your. Look at the finances behind your cities, Arsenal's, Chelsea's, Tottenham's, Liverpool's, Newcastle United now. Like you look at the money behind these teams, and
Yeah.
regardless what your owner has in the bank, it's tough to compete. So to
Mm.
do that in that era, like it's not even like going back to like 92, 93 when Blackburn did it. Blackburn did it with a hell of a team. It wasn't financially driven. It wasn't, you weren't in the era of money where, or like when Leeds won it, you weren't in the era of money where they were able to go out and buy the top players. It's not that, it wasn't that time. So
Yeah.
now, and you look back at when Leicester won it, that was the era of money. That was where they started throwing stupid amounts of money at players and buying all-star teams, and were allowed to buy all-star teams,
Mm.
and Leicester won it. So, like, I couldn't even imagine how you guys felt as season ticket holders and going to every game and watching it week in, week out, because I was watching from afar as a former player and a fan, and bloody phenomenal. Like it was just like goosebumps every time you see it. And I'm like, Jesus, what the heck's going on here? I hated the fact that you kept getting points against Liverpool because as you probably all know, I'm a Liverpool fan. But um, it was phenomenal to see happen, and it couldn't happen to a better bunch of people. And I said that right away. I got interviewed afterwards. I'm like, couldn't happen to a better group, because they did essentially have to wipe the slate clean after we got relegated to League One, and
Yeah.
a lot of people did come out and say that it was probably a blessing, is that things had to be changed and the structure had to be changed. The club had to get new ownership. Mandrich did well. He kind of stagnated, so the club wasn't going to go anywhere further, anywhere quicker. So things changed. Obviously, they've stepped it up in the world now. Training facilities probably one of the best in the Premier League, if not the world.
Mm.
The club, the stadium was always Premier League quality, and it can still be bigger. It will if the club gets back to where it was, and keeps that level going. But yeah, the club is in a fantastic spot now, and yeah, it's phenomenal to see. And I may have to reach out to it. I've not been back. I've not been back as a fan. I've come back. I've been back and played since I left, but I think I only played there twice since I left. I got a great reception from the fans, but I've not been back as a fan to watch the game.
Yeah, there
They
was
were
some.
probably booing me, but I'll accept the fact that my my chant sounded the same. So I accepted a bit of a pat on the back from everyone.
Yeah, there was some guy who used to come and sit there with us when you'd first made your move, and they said when you'd first come back to the King Power, and you said, "Oh, you just don't give him any space or any time to do anything. He'll score against you," and it's like, oh, and then and then that game at Preston, the 1-1 draw. Yakubu scores, Leicester winning the game late on. You know what happens next, don't you? You always think before you game. It's always in the back of your mind. Former player Iain Hume, and
Hmm.
how did it feel scoring against Leicester, Hume, in 2011?
You want my honest opinion?
Yeah, because a lot of players don't celebrate, do they? Some of them, and some of them will.
I I always love scoring. And sometimes against former clubs, it's worth it. I'm not a celebratory type against former clubs, but
Yeah.
we had our Christmas party that night,
Okay.
and if we didn't get a result and we got beat at home, we'd have got hammered, and we would have had to cancel. We were going to Dublin that night, and yeah, it softened the blow. So it was no, it was amazing, and it was, if I remember rightly, it was John Parkin cut it back near post. I smacked it bottom right. Um, if I remember that correctly. But yeah, it was a good finish. So it was one of those I took pride in, and um, I think it was in front of the fans as well, wasn't it? It was in front of Leicester, the away support, if I remember rightly. But no, I don't. I never scored against Barnsley when I played against them afterwards. Scored against them before for Leicester. Scored against Tranmere for Preston at
Yeah.
at Tranmere. They were top of league, and I scored against them. So that one, I got a lot of grief from that because that's where all my family and friends are from. But yeah, just I don't take things to heart. It's nothing personal. It's me doing my job. So
Yeah.
it's I know the respect that I had from the fans. The fans know how much I love them. So I know it probably wasn't probably got a few F bombs thrown at me and see you next Tuesdays thrown out there, but I'll accept that. I'll accept that for a couple minutes and then see them outside and sign whatever I could and photos with whoever I could, and that was how I was about the game. I love playing. I still love playing, even though I was just about to say 35. Jesus, even though I'm almost 41, I still love playing. And I still give everything. I still go in and smack. Like I think Leicester fans would have enjoyed it a bit better if I had the mentality I have now.
Yeah.
I absolutely smash people now. I run round as much as I can, but because I can't chase as much as I used to be able to, I just
Yeah.
go in and smash people now.
Mad.
So I'm a hard nosed technical striker now,
Okay.
whereas I used to be a hard working striker. I'm more hard nosed and technical. I'm shorter and fatter and out of shape.
Talk to me about the relegation season. One of Leicester's darkest seasons, you could put it that way. Number of managers. I think Gary Megson lasted, what was it, 6 weeks or so, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Martin Allen, sorry, didn't last that long. Ian Holloway came in, and yeah, things just didn't work out, did they, the way we'd hoped after getting him from Plymouth. Talk to me about that season as a whole, and talk to me about that last game of the season against Stoke. I think you hit the post, didn't you? From
No,
what
didn't
I
hit the
can remember
post.
against Stoke.
No, no, didn't hit the post. Carlo Nash pulled off a new contract worthy save on me. Um, the season was a whirlwind. We had so many players in, so many players out.
Yeah,
Ian Holloway coming in, spent a lot of money. Sorry, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah,
Yes. Sorry. Ian Holloway came in, spent a lot of money trying to get players out because Martin Allen brought in a lot of guys. Who
41 players.
Yeah, Martin Allen brought in a lot of guys who were all through one agent.
Yeah,
I don't know the the logistics and all that sort of stuff behind it and the history behind it all. But a lot of guys came in um, and never played.
mm,
Like we had Hellings came in, never played. We had Hossein, was it Kaibi, came in, very good player, but he was just tiny, never really got a game. Jimmy Nielsen came in.
Is that the bloke who Martin Allen didn't even know about?
I don't know, but he came in. The thing is, he was a technically very good player. And he
Yeah.
played for Iran I think he played 30 odd games for Iran, so he wasn't any slouch, but he was just tiny. And the physical side of the game, he never really got an opportunity because we didn't play that style of football. So
Mm,
if you think about it, somebody like him could have walked into because Swansea were that ball playing team. We weren't. We were a
yeah.
hard nosed, gritty team who worked our socks off and played some decent football at times. So he didn't really fit the mold. And then you had like Jimmy Nielsen came in, one of the nicest guys I've met in football, never got a game. He was on big money. Like these guys were coming in on stupid amounts of money.
Mm,
And then it comes to January and we bring in Barry Hales, who did really well, and guy worked his socks off.
Barry Hales.
A great mentor for a lot of us. But then
Yeah.
you brought in Matty Oakley, you brought in Stevie Howard, great mentors for everybody. It was like DJ came in, never really got the chances, was on silly amounts of money compared to everybody, and it was like there was kind of a riff, not a like a noticeable one towards the guys, but I think towards the club a rift
Mm,
between players as far as finances were going, because you had regulars for the last 2-3 years who were still playing every week, and then guys coming in on massive amounts of money and then not playing. So it was kind of a tough one. And then you had like Gary Megson came in, and you had Ollie came in, and Ollie was amazing. Like, I know
mm,
he didn't get as much of the credit, um, or he got a lot of the credit for the relegation, but not as
yeah,
much credit for what he did behind the scenes. Like, he was a great gaffer, great person to talk to. He tried his damnedest, but I just think yeah, sorry, Clarkey came in, but that's another situation we can talk about. I'm reading that
yeah.
comment there.
That sort
Um,
of
but that just
talk
summed
to me
up our
about that
season.
point. That point of the season about Clive Clark. Forest away in the cup.
I
No
was
one
sat right
expected
next to
that
him.
to happen. No one expected that to happen at half time. A heart attack, and what was it like in the dressing room as a player for that situation?
Devastating, devastating. Like, we're playing Forest, big rivalry, and we were, pardon my language, dog shit.
Yeah.
We were awful, and we were 1-0 down at half, and it could have been 6 or 7. We were awful. Um, but we get into the change room, and it was me, Clarkey, and Darren Kenton. We're all sitting
Mm,
there, and we were livid, because like we just had possibly the worst 45 minutes in a relegation season. To say we had the worst 45 minutes of our careers
yeah.
was a tough one. And then what happened, and Clarkey just obviously went through what he did, and Kent's caught him just before he got to the floor, and
Mm,
we just got out the room. Um, it was tough to take. The physios, Dave Rennie, Tom Freeman at the time, saved
yeah.
his life. They saved his life. Like, and not even a question. Like, those, if it wasn't for those two guys and their training and their reaction, they saved Clarkey's life.
Mm,
Um, like the first aid at the City ground was on the opposite corner of the field. Like, where the hell were they? Like, this is what raised a lot of the questions about the AEDs being in stadiums and everything, was something
yeah.
like that. But yeah, Tom Freeman and Dave Rennie saved Clarkey's life, and we were in no state to play, and it wasn't an excuse. We replayed the game and we gave them the goal and whatnot, but we thankfully got through. But that was one of the scariest moments of my career, to be honest.
Yeah, Ross goes on about bizarre. We conceded the second least amount of goals, but scored the fewest and went down that season. Talk to me
Cheers, pal.
about
Cheers, pal.
the second half of the season, and talk to me about Stoke away. What was the feeling about that last day of the season? Obviously, Southampton had Nigel Pearson back then, didn't they? He kept him up. I think Coventry were in that relegation battle as well with Leicester on the final day, and Southampton managed to stay up, didn't they? By the skin of the teeth. Leicester went down, and yeah, talk to me about that parts of the season.
Like, saying that there, like, uh, we scored the fewest amount. That was it.
Yeah.
And I took a lot of that on my back, because, again, Southampton away, playing against Gareth Bale, and I get a chance towards the end of the game. I round the keeper and I put it in the side netting.
Mm,
That sort of thing. Those are the things I remember, is because I
yeah.
know I played a big part in the relegation, because obviously if you don't score goals, you don't win games. Our
Mm,
defense did. And then it's easy for us as strikers to say, well, we should have kept a clean sheet. We only conceded one. Like, we lost 1-0. Yeah, I didn't score. Like, and EJ didn't score. And like, these sorts of things, I take a lot of that. But we it was weird, because we were far too comfortable with being in that situation, because we've been there before. So obviously, my first season when Rob Kelly took over, we
yeah.
we were in that situation again. We fought relegation. We did well. We were one of the best teams in the second half of the season, or the last third of the season. The next season was pretty similar. So we became too comfortable with being a fighting team and not really improving as far as consistency. And that was always our issue, was consistency. We'd go out and we'd beat Reading, and then we'd lose to Cov, or like whoever, like somebody down the bottom, Chef Wed. like we would do that, and we did that every bloody month. We'd go out and win against the top teams and lose against the bottom, and it's like, Christ's sake, like what's going on here? But when it went to Stoke, and we we were not the worst team on the field that day.
No,
Like
you were the
that's what
best, so
frustrates me.
it just won't go in.
And I remember chances that we'd had half chances here and there, and they were pummeling it down our throat with long throws and set pieces with Sidibe, and I think Johnny Parkin was playing that game, and uh, Richard Cresswell, and you've got all these players, and then I had my chance in the second half. Ball drops to me, and I smacked it across goal, took a deflection. The goal right in front of you guys, the goalie started going one way to save the initial shot, and it took the deflection. He reacted and kind of fingertipped it.
Yeah.
And no keeper should get that. And I'm
No.
not saying, no, my goal should have gone in because it was a deflection, but no keeper should save that. And it's like, if he wasn't bloody 8'2", he probably wouldn't have got it. But seriously, Carlo Nash is like 6'4", 6'5". Like the guy got to it because of his size and great reactions. But that kind of was the final nail in the coffin because we didn't have any. I don't remember having any more kind of clear cut chances after that. And I think it made it worse was so they go up on the same day
Mm,
and Cov stay up and we're
yeah.
down. And we knew the sort of way it went. If we'd have got a result, Cov would have gone down. Stoke would have gone into the playoffs and we'd have stayed up. And it was just devastating. And that was the tough. I've been relegated a couple of times. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been relegated a couple. I'm not. I think I'm the bloody cancer. And now that you got me thinking about it, so I've gone to Preston, got relegated. Gone back to Tranmere later in my career, got bloody relegated. So
Mm,
yeah. So cheers. Yeah, it's me. Um, but no, that was the toughest one. That was the toughest one for me. Because you look on paper, you look at the team we had, and you
yeah.
look to see where those players went to. Like it's just insane, and it's heartbreaking to be honest because it wasn't through the want of trying, and I think that was one thing that Leicester fans accepted. Upset, of course,
Yeah.
because the club you guys love and the club you guys have supported your whole lives went down. But I think for the vast majority of yous, you understood that it wasn't that we didn't give you what we had, and I think that was one of the special things about Leicester for me was you understood what we were given. We came up short. We knew that, and it was hard. It was hard, and especially when you had younger players who were like you had Richard Stearman who came up through the system. You had a bunch of players, Kingy, uh, who came up through the system. Obviously, Kingy wasn't from Leicester, but he pretty much should have been because he was there
Leicester
that long.
through that bloke.
But
One
but
knee.
that was it.
Mm,
And this is the thing that I think it helped players build bigger goals. You guys was you knew and you gave one down, but you knew we tried, and that was the thing. You've seen so many teams over your time where they go down with a whimper, and we fought till literally the last whistle that year. And it was, listen, heartbreaking, and I get it, and it hurt the players. And I know people always question players whether it actually hurts them, but that was
yeah.
different. That team was a bit different. We were all of similar age, apart from your Howies and Matty Oakley and Barry Hales. And that we were all of similar age. We were all low 20s, mid 20s at highest, and we were heartbroken, and it was tough to take. And we got a little bit of abuse for a while, but then you'd speak to fans and you'd understand that they're like, listen, we know you tried and we know you guys gave it your all. We just weren't good enough. And then the conversations start like this. It's like, well, maybe it's what we needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it ultimately went was I genuinely think it was what we needed. And not because I left but
No.
I think the club needed a revamp.
Yeah, a lot of when you talk to some fans and then you talk to opposition clubs, they always sit there and say sometimes it's good to go down because you redo everything and change a few things when you do, and then sometimes it's better for the best that you go down, and then look what's happened since Leicester did go down. Do you know what I mean? Look how good of a format it's been from that point onwards. You know, obviously we have suffered relegation from the Premier League once. But yes, it's a mad one to take when you're at the Bet365 stadium that day, and you're thinking, is this ball going to go in? You have plenty of chances.
Bet
Ross
three
talks
six
about,
five. It's bloody Britannia.
or whatever you want to call it. They
I'm
call
still
it
stuck on.
Bet365 these days.
It's still the
Um,
Walkers for me. Sorry, guys.
it's the Britannia, what I call it, but then Stoke fans come on. But Ross talks about Martin Fulop. I mean, top class goalkeeper.
Great guy.
I think there was a time in your career, don't get me wrong, where Martin Fulop hit it. It goes towards goal. Could have scored.
Luke Steele
But
was in
then I
goal
think
for
you
West Brom.
finished it off. Is that where you finished it off? You took it in.
What? Hey, it's on my sheet. I was the Harry Kane of that
I
time.
remember the goal well.
Anything
I
near
remember
me.
the goal well.
So do I.
He kind of like, it's a long kick going towards goal. It's actually going in. And, you know, I think you like made sure
It
of
was
it. And
edge of
then
the
some say,
edge
oh,
of the
Iain Hume
box.
robbed Martin Fulop's goal.
It was edge of the box, and Luke Steele had come out for West Brom. I think Sam Sodji was playing centre back.
Yeah.
And the ball's gone up, and Steely's come out. So I ended up playing with Steely the next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just jumped in because I had a pretty good leap. They didn't expect me to be around, so I've got up above Steely and I've kind of like pulled his arm down a bit, and I may or may not touch it, but I claimed it. And well, Martin Fulop the next week, he was like offering me money for it. He's like, you need to tell the league and the club that, because I think he had a if he scored a goal, like a stupid bonus that was just like one of those hidden incentives.
Yeah.
And I think he had that in his contract. And he's like, hey, like, you know, goalies will never score goals. And hey, what if I give you some money? Would you let me have the goal? And I'm thinking, well, I've got a bonus coming as well. Like if I score, like I think if I scored two more, I'm like, it's kind of my incentive. It's my job. So you keep a clean sheet, I'll score goals. And he's like, come on, Hume. I'm like, Martin, I don't know if I can do that, pal. I'm like, God, like rest in peace. Like he was one of the nicest guys in the game.
What a goal kick.
I just couldn't. He was phenomenal. He was like, you should have seen him in training. We only had him for the short stints, but he was so good in training. Like he was big. Like you don't realize how actual big he was, but he was agile with it, and he had like hands like paddles. Like he was such a nice guy. And like I kept in touch with him every so often. After I'd left and after obviously he'd gone. But he was just a great guy. And then when I heard what happened, it was just like, Jesus. Like I think it popped up the other week. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. It was his birthday. It was on my Facebook. He's still got his page. But yeah, he was phenomenal. And yes, it was my goal. I'm taking it. I'm not giving it back. It's on my record. But it's he did definitely ask me and offered to pay for it.
Let's ask you about your best Leicester City 11.
Hey, you need to give me a heads up with these things. I could throw anybody in there.
I want you to talk about every player you played with. I want you to think about it like now. I want you to go goalkeeper to striker of the years you played at Leicester with all the players you played with. And then I want you to pick a manager as well. Obviously, you played with 5 different managers at Leicester. I don't think Gary Begson's really going to be in there for you, to be honest, or Martin Allen. But I think probably maybe go with Craig Levein because he brought you into Leicester, or Rob Kelly. But give me your best 11. You can choose whatever formation you want to go with. You can add yourself in there if that's what you want to do.
Fucking right, I do. No, well, if I'm going with the best group that I've played with, then it's got to have me and Matty Fry together.
Okay, so what formation are you going to go with?
I don't bloody know. You chucked me under the bus here. You could have given me a heads up with that. I'd had a good think about it. I would have picked Martin Fulop, but I didn't have enough time with him.
Okay.
I'll go with him. He was so underrated.
Yeah.
Obviously Rob Douglas was good, but Hendo took his spot.
Okay.
Am I missing a keeper? Who else? Jimmy Nielsen was there. Rob Douglas, Hendo, Conrad Logan, but Conrad only broke through for a little bit towards the end. Yeah, Hendo's got to be in goal for me. He was just
Okay.
so reliable in a tough situation. Made some great saves. He did make mistakes, but every keeper does.
Yeah.
Right back, Richard Stearman, no question. Centre backs, Gaz McCauley, Paddy Kaznorbo. Left back, I think I've got to give it to him. Midfield for quality purposes, Joey Johnson,
Yeah.
Gareth Williams. Now this is the tough one. Wingers, who did we have?
I think Levi Porter played.
Yeah, but he only broke through a little bit. It's kind of like giving him and Ryan Smith, because Ryan Smith only played a little bit, but Ryan Smith was phenomenal.
I think you had Bell. I think you had Bell there at one point.
Yeah, that was under Martin Allen, but he was only there for a little bit and didn't set the world alight. Geez. Yeah, this is where you need to give me a heads up. I'd go through a list of players I played with.
Big old Kesdover.
Like Momo Silla was good, but he wasn't there long enough. Danny Tiata was good, but he didn't play as much. Stephen Hughes was good, but didn't play enough. Andy Welsh was there, but not long.
So at the minute, I think you've got 7 players in there. I think you've got 4 to pick from.
Yeah, I need 2 wingers, so I've got my back 4, keeper.
Danny Cadamartri.
Cads wasn't there long enough and didn't really do enough at the time. Elvis Hammond was there. Mark de Vries was there. Wow. You know what? I'm going to have to alter my formation. I'm going to go 4-3-3.
Okay.
Does
Matt Oakley make it?
I don't know, because he joined in January and we had a really tough time.
I don't think Clements played that much, did he, for Leicester?
No, he came in at the start and got injured a bit. And
yeah.
Like, I could easily put Matty Oakley and Stephen Clements in there, but
you got Wesolowski as well, aren't you?
I was just going to say, I'm going to go with Jimbo will sit in front of the back 4.
Yeah.
James Wesolowski. So I'm going off guys that I played with and I got the most out of.
Okay.
As like for myself. So I'll go like a diamond.
Yeah.
And I'll go James Wesolowski, Gareth Williams, Joey Johnson.
Yeah.
I'll go me at the tip of the diamond with Matty Fryatt and Stevie Howard.
Fantastic.
And my coach will be assisted by another coach that I had.
Go on.
Rob Kelly will be my head coach.
Yeah.
Because he got the most out of me. And Nigel Worthington will be his assistant. Nigel Worthington, for the 12 games or 8 games he was in charge of, he got the most out of our team that he possibly could have. And I honestly enjoyed playing for him.
I've got one final question for you. Actually, I've got 2, actually.
Okay.
Best Leicester City player you played with and worst?
Oh, Jesus. Matty Fryatt.
Is he your best one?
Just because, like, Joey Johnson's there, Gareth Williams with his ability. You guys seen it a bit more than me.
Yeah.
But he was phenomenal. And he was so laid back. But Matty Fryatt, because of what he went on to do and what he was doing before he came to us and what he did in the situations we had. Worst.
I mean, you can choose top
Uh
5 if you want to choose the top 5 of worst
no,
players.
no, because I don't like to disrespect teammates. Um, I think, and not because they weren't good players at some point. I
Yeah.
think I've got to throw in from the handful of Martin Allen signings, guys who didn't play. So just because they didn't play enough,
Zolt's, let's
hey,
go.
Zolt Lasko was phenomenal, and
Mm.
honestly, he was. He if he'd have been given more trust, I think guy went on to play. I think he played like 30 odd times for Hungary.
I think they
And then
had
we had
Gabor Borri as well, didn't they?
Yeah, we had Gabor
When
Bori.
they
They
come
were
in.
great guys,
Yeah.
but they never really got. So I won't put them in that. They're not going in that handful.
Okay.
I think the players that I'd spoke about before, um, and not because they weren't technically good players and were good in their own right, but the likes of like what's his face, Hellings and Kaibi and Jimmy Nielsen just didn't do anything at the club.
Russell Colcourt.
Carl Court, I looked up to. The guy was a mentor, man. He was so good even when he was injured, and what he'd done in the game. And
Didn't he score against Chelsea?
he did. I was injured for that, so I never went down to that. I was devastated
Ah,
because I think DJ scored, I think Courtney scored, and I wasn't
that was
there, and
that was
I
a
was
random
playing.
cup game. That
It was, and I bloody missed it.
Lampard
But
bloody put us away, didn't he? He was like, oh,
but yeah, I'm trying to think about. You got me trying to think about players I played with who were like top 11.
I should have just let you write a list beforehand, and then we could have gone
Yeah, because
through.
then I'd have gone through all the stats
Next,
and that.
I'll tell you what, we'll do a show at some point, and we'll pick the best and worst Leicester players of Iain
I'm
Hume's
not.
career.
See, this is where you put me on the spot because I'm I never see. I don't like talking about worse because
I
I know
know,
they didn't. No, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah,
as a fan, it's easier to do.
yeah. It's,
But
when you're a
when I've
player and
trained
you
with,
play with them people,
but I've
it's like,
trained with them. I've seen them. I've seen the way they work, and it's like it didn't go well for them. So
Alan Shearer were good
Alan
for us,
Sheehan
yeah.
was a very good player for us, but
I heard, yeah,
Nisa Johansson for me got above
yeah,
him just because
Hansen,
of what he was. Shees would have been in there. Patrick McCarthy would have been there.
yeah.
Um, I could have thrown a couple more in. So Paddy McCarthy would have been on my bench with Shees, Mark De Vries, Alan Mabry. Like those guys
Hmm.
would have been in and around. Like Mabes was just steady Eddie, very seldom made mistakes. Um, Big Martin Phillip would have been on the bench. Like those guys, if I'd have got more time with them, I would have. But yeah, like making a worst 11 is tough for me because I've seen them work, I've seen them train, and as good or bad as they did, and fans obviously have easy judgment for them, and I support that.
Yeah,
Like, hey, I'd have made it. I would have made a couple bad 11s in my time if you go to teams that I've played for, but I don't think any of the players that I played with would have put me in there, and that's sort of how I look at it. But
fair point.
yeah, no, it's yeah that. I'm gonna end up messaging you with different players, right?
That's all right. You
I'll have
do
a
that.
I'll have a little
I'll
look.
come back at you and I'll tell them who I didn't like at them times of their careers.
Yeah. So we're gonna have an A team and a B team. Right. Who
We'll compare them to win the championship.
yeah, who would I play if I was playing at the Walkers? Who would I play if I was playing away from home? Who would I play? Because I'd guarantee you I'd change a couple of those those home field players. Grind out away results, but no, it's
I've got one more for you.
okay.
Leicester fans are obviously wanting to know about it. The Barnsley. I mean, short stint, should we call it? I wouldn't really call it a long sort of stint.
I was still there for
Obviously,
2.5 years.
the
So
the incident happened. It's one that, yeah, Leicester fans kind of hate Chris Morgan, don't they? And I guess Barnsley fans are the same. And at that point, and yeah, talk to me about that incident. Obviously, you was out for was it about 8 months or so? Did you say you was out for after?
yeah,
Um,
game to game, it was about 8 months.
yeah, talk to me about that incident. Obviously, it was horrific to even watch. Should have been a red card. Should have been banned from football. The
Should have
bloke.
been, but Andy Durso.
Never a yellow card. The referee should have
Oh,
been sacked after the game.
well, the thing is, he got a yellow for it. And listen, he's tried to catch me. He probably. I'd like to bet my life on it that he didn't try to do what he did. But it is what it is. Like I've seen incident reports from some of their people saying that
Yeah,
I was enticing the centre backs. It was him and Ugo Ehiog at the back. So
yeah.
6'3", 6'4", up against little 5'8" me. But I was enticing them by jumping into them, and that was their reports. I'm like, what? I'm like, It's like Vern Troyer trying to fight with Doctor Evil.
Oh
Like
no.
it's like, but no, he just caught me the wrong spot, wrong time.
Yeah.
It's like it felt like he'd pierced my eardrum. Um, and then like I thought I'd be okay. I stood up and I wasn't. I was a bit out, and I was supposed. They never sent me to the hospital. They just said, "Oh, it looks like you got concussion." So they were sending me home, and I'd gone home. Started throwing up the next day. My wife tried to have conversations with me, and I was kind of talking gibberish, and so they took me to the hospital. So it happened on the Saturday. They took me to the hospital like Sunday afternoon.
Mm.
And they discharged me. So they did all the triage and that, and they discharged me saying, "Oh, it just looks like severe concussion. Just be
Yeah.
careful." This and then I threw up, and they panicked, and they rushed me in for a CT, and the whole left side of my brain was covered in blood. So it was like, but because I hadn't swollen, so I hadn't
Mm.
swollen or depressed,
Mm.
they couldn't see it. So it was just my bone had gone in, and obviously the swelling had flattened out my face.
Mm.
So, but yeah, the whole left side of my brain was covered in blood. My temple. Sorry, I'm looking at the camera to reverse my. The temple had broken inwards. So it is what it is.
Was it like a horseshoe type of thing when you'd had it done?
Oh yeah, it still is. Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
but it
It's
is what it is.
horrific.
Like,
It's horrific, isn't it?
well,
To even think about
Thankfully, I was an ugly bastard beforehand. So,
when I first seen it, I'm like, no. Now to look at it again.
yeah, you get used to it. The hardest
And
part
it's
shaving my
not
head.
it weren't the thing it was a challenge. I was more fucking thinking about pissed off at the time.
Yeah, same here. But it is like I think the best part was I got a lot of letters to the club from
Yeah,
fans from Barnsley fans from fans all over the UK. To us, people who'd
yeah,
seen it sent in letters, and then a friend of mine who was obviously a Leicester fan,
yeah.
unfortunately passed away. I think it was 6 years ago. He ventured to watch us. He came up to Oakwell one weekend when Leicester were away or something like that. And he
Mm.
brought me, I just started coming back to games just after Christmas. And he brought me a big rolled out sheet. And I've got it somewhere. I think it's in my basement. And there must be about 1,000 signatures and notes on it. And it's like
Jesus Christ.
6 or 7. And but the thing is, it wasn't just from Leicester fans. It was
No,
from Hub fans. It was from Forest fans. It was from people all over the country who played, and he'd gone round, he'd gone to games, and he got them to sign it. And that was so unexpected. And that I think that's the best part about football. Is as much as you hate
you
people,
all come
and
together.
that's it. And listen, I'm alive.
Mm.
I
That's the
I
main
never passed,
thing.
but that was it. And like so, to see the amount of notes and um, little words of like not advice, but words of support and like best wishes and all that was phenomenal. It was
Yeah.
it was great to see, and it that helped me. It did because it gave me a reason for why I told the doctor right away that I wasn't stopping playing.
Yeah.
They said, well, you're gonna have to be careful. I said, well, if I have to wear a helmet, they wanted me to wear one of those silly helmet things. I'm like, not happening. I
Did he
said, if
ever
I can't,
contact you about the challenge?
uh, 8 months later, I got a text message. So after I played my
8
first
months.
game against Gainsborough, I played Gainsborough Trinity in pre-season the next year, and my first touch of the ball was with my head. So I'd come on and ball had gone wide, free kick. So I'd made a run, and ball's up, and I've gone for a header. And big centre back I was playing against. Do you remember A.D. Moses?
No.
Yeah. Some of the listeners might. A.D. Moses played for Barnsley for a while. He played Huddersfield and whatnot. He'd been around. And he was playing for Gainsborough because he's from there, or he lived around there.
Yeah.
And he turns around at me. He was marking me on the corner. I've gone up on the header. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Why would you do that? Why would you go in for a header?" I said, "Because I'm back playing." Like, and it's just, but again, this is where it comes back to my mentality. My mentality is different to a lot. And I'm not saying I'm special. Well, my wife and kids call me special all the time, but that's not for brains or wit or anything like that. But it's just me. My game is revolved around hard work and giving you everything I've got. So I never ever questioned whether I would be back. It was a matter of when. And I was back training fully with the team middle of March, end of March, but insurance purposes kept me out until the next season. So I could have been back earlier. I was back. So it happened in the second week of November. I was back running just before Christmas with the physio, just jogging, just to get my heart rate up and see how it went. And then I was back with the club from the new year. And I was training 3 days a week and like doing my running, doing my fitness and everything. And then I was back in full training before the end of the season. So I was back full contact, everything. So it was refreshing for me, but kind of demoralizing that the insurance company said they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't allow it until I had 8 months. So I had to wait until the preseason. I even went to Spain for preseason the next year and wasn't allowed to play in the games. I was allowed to train. I was allowed to run my ass off, but I wasn't allowed to play in the games. I'm like, why didn't I just leave me home then? Like, it is what it is. And I knew that if I'd follow protocol and I knew I was doing everything right, I'd be back. It was just
fantastic. Iain, thanks for coming on, mate. I do appreciate it. Is there any last message you'd want to give to Leicester fans before I let you go?
No, well, again, like I said before, thank you for everything over the years, and still the same with me. You guys are phenomenal, and I genuinely love the lot of you. But good luck this season. Finish the season. Like, get yourselves up the table and see where it goes, and keep supporting the club you love.
Cheers, Iain. All the best, mate.
Yeah. No, but
that was Iain Hume, former Leicester forward. Great chat with Iain for the last hour and 15 minutes. Hume, but yeah, great guest as always. A lot of insight into Hume's career and Leicester as well. Leicester fans, if you've enjoyed this, hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you do, and you haven't subscribed, please get down and do so. It'd help me out massively. If you're watching this on playback, go and watch it. Let me know what you think. And that is it from me. Take care, Jack. See you tomorrow for will do. And that is it from me then. What's coming up on the final whistle? So on Friday at 7 o'clock, we've got the match preview for AFC Bournemouth. Leicester still in search for their first league win of the season. Tomorrow night, we've got the Premier League predictions, week 7. So join us for that. Thank you for watching, everyone. Really appreciate it. Take care and have a great rest of your evening. Up the Foxes. Hi all, thank you for watching The Final Whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share and subscribe to the channel.